Good afternoon, everybody. This is Kannan, your host for the day. Today we'll walk through the process on how in Tally we have solved the process of generating an MCA report. Like MCA requires the reports to be filed in XML format, which is nothing but we call it as Xbrl format. So on your screen you see what the taxonomies which is already been predefined and which is fixed by the MCA. So there are around 3,187 elements which includes both the financial and non-financial taxonomies. Taxonomies are nothing but the head of account. Okay. So here you see the flow in the tree structure of the sources and application of fund. Okay. And you just go down the line, you'll find the elements. So each and every line is, we call it as an element in the technical terms. That complete tree structure we call it as a taxonomy. So for each of the elements given above, there are schedules. Suppose if you take an element called fixed asset, so under fixed assets, they need a detailed bifurcation of what was your opening stock of your fixed asset, what is your accumulated depreciation, that is opening accumulated depreciation, what is your additions during the year for the fixed asset, what is the deductions, that is what is the sale of any, if there is any sale of fixed assets, on the depreciation on that, and what is the closing balance of your accumulated depreciation, and ultimately we arrive at the net closing balance of your asset. So in the case of fixed asset, suppose say for example we buy a fixed asset for 1 lakh. We had an opening balance of fixed asset of 1 lakh, and last year there was a depreciation of 10% of that. Suppose say if you take 10%, so 10,000 is my depreciation. So my opening value of my fixed asset will be 1 lakh. My opening value of my accumulated depreciation will be 10,000. For example, suppose the same again for this current year, I again charge another 10,000 rupees as my depreciation. So my closing value of my accumulated depreciation becomes 20,000. That is, opening value of my depreciation 10,000 and my current year value of depreciation is 10,000. Ultimately, my closing stock value will still remain 1 lakh. So in the subsequent year, when I go into my balance sheet, again my opening value of my fixed asset will be 1 lakh, and my accumulated depreciation opening value will be 20,000, and it goes on. Ultimately, my opening value and my closing value of my fixed asset is same. That is the value of my for which I have currently bought the fixed asset. If there is any additions, then that will also become a part of your closing value of your fixed asset. But the depreciation will not directly be deducting from my asset value. I will accumulate my depreciation, and at the end of the period where my asset value and my depreciation value is matching, then I will knock off my fixed asset. Okay. So that is a procedure is been followed by MCA. So this is the schedule for which fixed asset is derived. Same way, there are schedules for your inventories, that is nothing but your closing stock. These are the schedules for your fixed asset, both your tangible and intangible assets. Okay. And this is the schedules. So for the current year, the MCA is already defined all the taxonomies and said only the customers who are filing the reports for this current year, that is for the current year 10 and 11, they are not supposed to have an element apart from the 3,187 elements, which includes both your financial and non-financial data. Your financial data will be all your ledger balances, which will be mapping it to the MCA elements will be your financial data, and your non-financial data will be the company details like your company name, your company SIN number, your company the date of AGM, who is the directors, what is the qualification of the directors. All those things will go into my non-financial data, and your directors report, my auditors report, and directors who are signing the board balance sheet, and the auditor who is signing the balance sheet. All these things will become my non-financial data. So out of this 3,187 elements, it has been inclusive of both financial as well as my non-financial data. So this is the revised latest MCA elements which has been defined. Earlier it was around 3,210, and ultimately finally when they came out with the revised taxonomies, it was reduced to 3,187. Okay. And going down the line in future years, that is for this current year, when you are filing for 2011-12, there will be more changes which will be coming into the taxonomies. So this is the list of elements which has been predefined, and they said there is no extension for this particular year. So now we'll see how these elements can be mapped to my Tally data and giving all the financial information as well as my non-financial information, putting into Tally and generate my balance sheet and my P&L, that we call it as an instant document in the MCA terms. So now I have opened a company which is there in Tally. So we have provided an option of enabling my MCA reports in the MCA, S11, statutory and taxations. So here we have provided an option to enable the MCA report. So MCA report will contain both your balance sheet and the P&L. In MCA call it as an income statement. So once I enable the MCA report, in my statutory information, in the statutory reports, there will be an option for MCA reports. Under MCA reports, there are bifurcations like list of accounts, my additional details, my balance sheet, my profit and loss, my cash flow, and the other reports. Now we'll see one by one and see how we go about in generating my MCA reports. When I go into a list of ledgers, so left side you find all the blue colored group names. These are the blue color group names are all the groups which have been created under Tally. So now these are the ledgers which have been created in Tally. Now these ledgers need to be mapped to the elements given by the MCA, right? So now I have a ledger called equity share capital. So this has to be mapped to a relevant taxonomy from the MCA. Now I say control enter on this. So here these are the list of balance sheet elements which I showed you in my Excel sheet. So Tally will take you to the nearest taxonomy name, so the customer can drill down, use the arrow key and go to the relevant taxonomies. Now I want to map equity share capital. This is the ledger name I have created. The customer may have created like Mr. X capital, or Xbrl just created as a capital, but MCA said paid up equity share capital. Now I need to map this equity share capital to equity, paid up equity share capital. So once I enter on this, so the value which is there as 10 crores, 107 crores, 80,000 will get mapped to this particular element called paid up equity share capital. So there is a query like, what is the meaning of MCA? MCA is nothing but Ministry of Corporate Affairs, right? And taxonomy means the list of ledgers. Like when you are creating a ledger, I can create a ledger for an expense. Suppose under expense I can say my telephone expense is an expense for a company, okay, and rent is an expense. So each one will be called as a taxonomy. So this is a technical term used by the MCA, right? Same way I can map all my ledgers. The blue colored ones, when I map it to a particular element of MCA, it will automatically turn into black. So all the blue colors need to be turned into black so that all the values which are there in your balance sheet and P&L will get exported to the XML file. Right? So this is one way of mapping. For example, if I have a multiple ledger and I want to map all the multiple ledgers to one particular element. So in the for example, I take under reserves and surplus, there is accumulated reserve. There is one element called accumulated reserve. There is one more element, ledger, which I have created called bond redemption reserve and suppose the capital redemption reserve. So these are all the three ledgers which I want to map to one particular element of MCA. Now I say Control C and I map it to, suppose I want to map this to, suppose subsidy incentive reserves. And I say enter. So my all the three elements are getting mapped to the single taxonomy of MCA. This is another way of mapping. Suppose I have a group in Tally, created a group in Tally, and all the groups need to be mapped to one particular element. So I can directly go and map the group of that particular element, group of Tally. Can say Control Enter. So for example, I map this particular group to, suppose revaluation reserve. So all these three ledgers which are there under share application money pending allotment will get mapped to revaluation reserve. So there are three ways of mapping my ledgers to the MCA elements. Either I can map individually one by one, or I can choose the space bar and map it to one element of that particular one element to multiple ledgers, or if all the ledgers are a particular group in Tally to be mapped to one element, so I can map the group so that all the sub-elements, sub-ledgers created under that group will get mapped to one particular element. So like this, I need to map, these are the balance sheet items, and these are the, earlier we saw that liabilities. Now these are the ledgers for fixed assets, assets. Okay. And when you want, the MCA wants a detailed information on your data. For example, if I have a data, the MCA requires the details like, so suppose if the outstanding of that particular ledger of a data is 1 lakh, the MCA wants a detail like out of that 1 lakh, how much bills are pending for more than 6 months and how many bills are pending for less than 6 months. Okay. And when I say more than 6 months and less than 6 months, MCA wants another further bifurcations like out of that more than 6 months and less than 6 months, how much of value is secured, how much value is good secured, and how much is unsecured. So Tally will by default derive the value based on the data what you have entered in Tally. Suppose I have 2 customers for sundry data. Now I want to bifurcate this value. I have a total outstanding of, suppose 99,75,700 is my, you can see here 99,75,700 is my outstanding from the total data of both data. Now once I say Control Enter on this, now I am giving the bifurcation of data. So here I am giving the bifurcations. Either if the customer knows that what is out of 99,75,000, what are the bifurcations which need to go under less than 6 months and more than 6 months, he can directly give the value. Suppose if he wants Tally to derive the values, he can say enter. So Tally will derive this value based on your bill date. So here out of, there are 2 data customers here. I have party 1 has data and another sundry data as a customer. So the total value of outstanding from party 1 is 88,75,000 and I have bifurcated as 83,75,000 and 5 lakhs. So suppose if I want to change this value, I say Alt A, so that I can, if at all I want to change the value, suppose say I want to change this to 10 lakhs for more than 6 months, I say. So automatically my less than 6 months value will be arrived from this. Suppose I want to give a category, like suppose I have created the sundry data, I have defined it as a doubtful unsecured. Suppose I want to change the category of this particular customer. So here I can give the category, like suppose if the data is a good secure data or is an unsecured data, or so this. So under sundry data, I have said that he is a unsecured good data. So I can change the data as a, I say press F5 and I say whether is a secure data or is a good unsecured data or it is unsecured doubtful. I say is a secure data. So based on the information I give here, automatically the values will get pre-filled here. So the data is turned into black. That means this 99 like 75,000 is got bifurcated accordingly. So this is one way of mapping it. Suppose I want to map a group by group. Suppose I want to map my capital account first. Then I want to map my reserves and surplus. Then I want to map, suppose a fixed asset. Then I want to go into my P&L account. So I can map a group. I can say capital account. These are the groups created under Tally. So this will just filter only for the capitals. So I can map the, so these are all the ledgers under my reserves and surpluses. Okay. So I say I want to map my sales in my incomes. So I have created only one ledger for the incomes. I say specifying that it's a revenue, sales, traded goods. So I can map that particular group. Like this, when I am mapping all the ledgers, the only difference you will find in mapping is your data. So because we need to give a detailed information on how we are arriving the total outstanding, like more than 6 months and less than 6 months bifurcations need to be provided. Okay. Now we will go into my incomes and expenses. So under sales, I have a ledger called revenue, sales, traded goods. When I go into this, and when the filtration what we have provided is, when I am mapping my balance sheet, you will not find the element names of incomes and expenses. When I am mapping the elements of incomes and expenses, you won't find the elements of assets and liabilities. So I want to map my sales ledger, which is created in the sales group. So I can either map to, I have created a ledger called revenue sales from a traded goods. I can either map it to traded goods, or if I have a ledger called sale from a manufactured goods, I can go into map into my manufactured goods or some other sales other than my manufactured and traded goods. So I map this to my traded goods. So automatically this element will get mapped to the element. So like this, I will be mapping all my ledgers. Is there any doubts in the mapping screen? Shall we move ahead? So once I have completed all my mappings, okay. So here we are having something called profit and loss appropriation account. By default, Tally will arrive the profit before tax, profit before tax, because we are correcting tax as a liability and posting it under balance sheet. So Here MCA wants a detailed appropriation of the values. So based on my mappings, whatever is my profit and whatever is the value will arrive here, and we need to provide the values, the appropriation value. Suppose say I would have made a provision of tax for the current year, so I can give the value here so that by default we'll arrive the value at net profit before tax and net profit after tax. Same way we need to arrive all the values. Basically we need to give the appropriation values. Either we can pass out JV or I can give the values manually. Right? And here we have something called cash flow. Cash flow is also one of the mandatory information which is been required by the MCA. Okay. So there are around 101 and 120 elements which is being defined by the MCA for cash flow. So here we'll be giving the values manually. Based on the values, the total value of my increase or decrease in cash flow and what is the income will be arrived. The total values will be arrived by the tally, and wherever you file the element names as bold ones and which has a child elements, so only those values will be providing it. Other values, the total values will be arrived by tally. There are two ways of giving my cash flow. One is a direct method and other one is my indirect method. So under additional information, so these are the mandate, wherever whatever is the information mandatory, that is been marked as an asterisk, a star mark in the beginning of the name, and then this is a company name, the SIN number of the company, PAN number of the company, the address and city, and website. So website is also one of the mandatory information which is been asked by the MCA. Now industry type. For the current year, for the year 2010 and 11, the MCA has provided taxonomies only for the commercial and industry. Still, banking, insurance and non-banking financial companies and power sectors, still the taxonomies not been provided. Commercial industry. Okay. The date of the board meeting, we call it as AGM. This is also one of the mandatory information, and the period for which we are reporting the report for the financial year, whether it is a standalone or it's a group company, what is the value currency you follow, whether you are reporting as an actual value or a billion or crore or a lakh, and which is the format you are following, whether you are following sources and application of funds or you are following the assets and liabilities, your balance sheet and my cash flow. Most of the companies follow the indirect method of the cash flow. We can choose that direct or indirect method here. And have been closed for the year. So this is the place where we provide all the non-financial incomes, non-financial information. So once we are completed with all the mappings of my ledger to my to the list of elements given by the MCA, then I need to provide the additional information. So additional information and the general information, all the company information will get captured, and the details of inventory. Okay, MCA wants a detailed information on detailed information on your inventory as well. The inventory they have bifurcated the inventory as my consumptions of raw materials, your consumptions of my packing materials, consumption of storage and spares, consumption of other materials, my traded goods and increase and decrease in my finished product if I am a manufacturer. So when I am mapping my purchase ledgers when I map any element here to any of these, there are six elements which they are given for purchases. So when I am mapping the values here, the purchase value will automatically come into my additional information for where I need to capture these this around the 38 line items are there, which we call it as schedules in my schedule 6 balance sheet. Suppose if I am giving inventory value as 1 lakh, so I need to define in the schedule like how you are arriving at that particular 1 lakh. Either it could be my finished product, or it could be a raw material, or it could be my consumables. So all the details will be given here. In Xbrl, they directly don't take the value of my opening stock, purchases and my closing stock. They want to have the net value as either it's a consumption changes in my stock, that is opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock, or increase and decrease in the value of my stock. So once I am giving my opening stock purchase value and I am giving my closing stock value, automatically we are deriving here the consumption value based on the formula like opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. So that is your details of inventory. Now another information which is mandatorily information required by the MCA is the details of my turnover. When I am mapping my incomes to the MCA elements, I find only one element called revenue from sale of traded goods. So when I say revenue from a sale of traded goods, so MCA wants a further bifurcation of whether the sale of the traded goods is a domestic or it is it's an export turnover. Under export turnover, it is further asking whether it is a manufactured goods or a traded goods. So this bifurcation has to be provided by the customer. So the total value of turnover, when I'm selling here, my total turnover is 90,49,000. So the total value and the bifurcation should tally. Otherwise, you will have a mismatch and it will give an error in your MCA tool when you are validating the file. Okay. Once I am through with my general information of the company, detailed information on my inventory and detailed bifurcation of my turnover, now I need to provide the non-accounting part like my accounting policies. So when I go into the schedule of my non-accounting policies, there are around 210 element names which need to be provided. Either it says basic presentation of the financial statement disclosure. Here we can type the values if the text value is available with you. Now the most commonly used way of having the text information is all the auditors will be having auditors or the company, they will have it in the Word document. Now there are two ways of representing these accounting policies. Either I can have a text document which I can link it to this particular report, or I can type the values manually. Now we'll see both. Now I say I already have a text information, Word document where all the accounting policies of the company is being defined in my in that document. Now here either I can type the value of my accounting policies, or I can give the path of my document where I have stored the values. I'll show you how we link the document. So here I have my annual report where all the details have been captured for all the accounting policies. All the details have been captured here. So I take this path, I copy it, and paste it here. So once I copy it and paste it here, all the information from the document will get captured here. So this is a plain text which it will not show you any table. If at all you have any tables in your document, it will not show the tables here. But MCA wants the text information to be converted into HTML format. So Tally by default will convert it into HTML format and show you in the validation tool. So I have copied a document, Word document, where all the accounting policies of the company is being kept in the Word document, and I want to take that value and to be posted in my MCA report. Either I can type the values individually, all the elements, or I can give one complete text document which I can type, or I can link a Word document. Once the document is linked, and if the file is getting deleted from the source place where I have copied from, still the data will be available in Tally. Even if the file is getting deleted, your data is available. This will help because in cases where the customer is giving the details and is giving the data to any of the CA for validation, and the file is not been sent to the CAs. So in the same way, all the other text information in each and every report, there is something called a text block, or we can give the values individually. Same way with your employee benefits. If you have any companies which has been amalgamated with your company, the amalgamation details will be captured here. Okay. So out of this 38 non-financial information, the mandatory information, sales of turnover, accounting policies, and we have something called the auditor's report. Same way, auditor's report also can be given element wise, or the total document, the text document, Word document can be linked to this particular element or text document. Okay. These are the details of the auditors who are signing the balance sheet. Okay. My director's report. Even in director's report also, a complete text block can be provided if at all it is provided in the document, or an element wise details can be provided. Okay. And one more information is the details and the director's remuneration is also one of the mandatory information. Either it can be provided as a text block, or it can be provided individual element wise items. So when I am providing a name of the director, the DIN number of the director will, all the DIN number of the director, the date of birth of the director, designations, qualifications, and shares held by the directors will become a mandatory. Salaries is not a mandatory information. Either salaries can be there or it can be zero. So you can have any number of directors. Okay. This is the company secretary who is signing the balance sheet. So you need a company secretary name should be provided, which is mandatory, and the details of directors who are signing the balance sheet. The DIN number which is been provided against the directors should match with the name which they are given at the time of applying for the DIN number to the ROC. If the DIN number is not matching with the name, then also you will have an error which will be through that the DIN number is not matching with the name of the director. So all these are non-financial information which has been taken from all the 3,187 elements. Here we have something called the details of tangible and intangible assets. So when I am mapping an element called a fixed asset in Tally, we will consider the opening value and closing value of that particular fixed asset. So from my opening and closing value of my fixed asset, there could have been some transactions which could have taken place. It could be a depreciation, or it could be an addition to my asset, or it could be my sale of fixed asset, all those things. So all the bifurcations need to be provided here. So here I can take the value directly from. So I have a leasehold land which I have purchased. So here I can say, show me the ledgers of all the fixed assets. So when I say leasehold land, so during the current financial year, I have bought a leasehold land for cash for 1 lakh rupees. So once I say this, so automatically that 1 lakh will get copied here. Either I can go from the ledger and choose a voucher and paste the value here, or I can give the values manually. This is for the assets, for the tangible assets, and the same way for my intangible assets as well. So we have seen how we map my ledgers to the elements of given by the MCA, and for the MCA elements, what are the non-financial information which need to be provided. Now we'll see the balance sheet. Based on my mapping, whatever I have done, I can generate the balance sheet. This is the element wise, which is provided by the MCA. Suppose there is a value of 2,10,000 against my revaluation reserves. Now I want to know, I don't know how many ledgers is being mapped to this particular ledger. So I can directly say, I can drill down and see what are the ledgers which are being mapped. I have 3 ledgers which have been mapped to this particular element. So from here I can directly go into my source document, that is vouchers. Okay. Based on my mapping, I am arriving at my balance sheet. Based on my mapping, I can see my profit and loss as well. So I have mapped only few ledgers, and here we are showing the list of ledgers which are still not mapped. So even from here I can map. So the value will get captured as a mapped element. Now my cash flow. So based on the values which are provided, either it could be a direct method or an indirect method, I can generate the cash flow, and there are other reports. Under other reports, the MCA wants a detailed information on your inventories, the name of the stocks as well. So based on my MCA mapping, this is my fixed asset register which I am showing. Here I will be showing what is my opening value of my fixed asset, what is the accumulated depreciation opening value, what is my accumulated impairment, and any additions during the year, deductions during the year, other adjustments, depreciation during the year, to my closing value of my accumulated depreciation, and what is the closing value of my fixed asset. So even from here also I can go to that report and give the values and come back here. I can say Alt T for my tangible assets and Alt I for my intangible assets. Okay. There is something called details of products and services. So MCA requires the details of my inventory as well. Under inventory, what are the stocks, inventory names which I am dealing with based on the code which they are creating, or if the customer is using excise, there will be a tariff classification which has been used by the customer. I'll just give you an example how we are mapping all the inventories. So I have, okay. So there are 3 items. So one is, there are 3 items. 2 items are already been mapped to HSN code, that is the commodity code of the item, and one it is showing as the stock item without tariff classification. Even from here, I can Even from here I can update the direct classifications. These are the list of commodity codes which I already created. If at all this item doesn't fall into this particular commodity code, I can create a new one. Commodity 12, and I say both what is my HSN code. So once I accept, automatically that element and that item will get mapped to the item. That commodity code will get mapped to the item. Okay. Now we'll see the details of goods. Okay. MCA wants the detailed information of your goods. The goods have been classified. Here we have something called the nature of goods. MCA has classified the nature of goods as produced, traded, and raw material. So if at all I want to, in the item master, we have provided an option to specify whether this item belongs to a produced goods or it is a traded goods or a raw material. So based on the classification given here, we will arrive at the report. So these are the product and services. This is my details of goods. Here you will capture my traded as well as my produced goods, and there is a separate report for my raw materials. So once I am through with all the mappings, giving additional informations, then I can generate my MCA report, which is nothing but my P&L and balance sheet. Okay. Under additional information, here we see two columns called applicable report and status. Suppose say there are around 38 non-financial information. So suppose say if any of the elements is not applicable for my company, I can just say this is not applicable. This is not applicable for me. So this will automatically turn into black. Okay. Or I can say this is still incomplete. I can put it as my incomplete status, or I can say status as my complete. Once I say complete and not applicable, this will turn into black. And one more thing is, any of the additional information, we are generating two documents, which is balance sheet and my income statement, which is nothing but my profit and loss. Once I need to specify, these reports will go with the balance sheet, or it will go along with both balance sheet and P&L, or it will go with my profit and loss. So the reporting segments will go with my profit and loss. So all the information which I am filling here, either it has to go with my balance sheet or my profit and loss. There are certain information which has been predefined by the MCA stating that this has to go with my balance sheet only and this has to go with my P&L accounts. So that we have already predefined. This general information will always go with my balance sheet. This details of inventory will go with my balance sheet, but details of turnover will go with my P&L. So like this, I will be specifying all the status. For the convenience of the customer, where from a single report, customer can fill all the information and generate a report. Whereas we have provided an information called a checklist. So once I click on my checklist, we have said that there are 11 points to be considered for generating an instant document. That is, okay. So each and everything will be, suppose say all the ledgers need to be mapped. So from the checklist, I can enter into my mapping ledgers and complete my mapping. Come back, my profit and loss appropriations of inventory, my details of turnover, my assets, tangible assets, inventory information, okay, mandatory information. So, okay. So when I'm sending a report for generating an instant document for MCA, we need to provide the information for 2 financial years. That is my current year as well as my previous year. So 2 years information will be provided, and the additional information which are mandatory. That is my accounting policies is a mandatory information. It is a must to be sent to MCA. Auditor's report, auditor's information, director's report, signatories to my balance sheet and share capital details. So all the additional information either it can be filled from here or only the mandatory things can be filled from my checklist. So I said when I need to generate my instant document, I need to send the details for the 2 financial years. Okay. So this is my current year. So I can link my previous year. If at all my data is unsplit, automatically the values, the period will come here as 2009 and 10. If I have a split data, then I can open my 2009 and 10. I'll show you. For the example purpose, I have already configured, I have already mapped all the elements in my 2009 and 10. Now, once I have mapped it, all the elements of 2009 and 10, I need not map my current year. It becomes a duplication of work which I am doing. So, I can copy the configurations from the 2009 company. So, what are the names which are common in 2009 and 2010 which have been mapped in 2009 for the MCA elements? All the elements will get mapped. The only thing which will not get mapped is if any additions is being done in the current financial year or you have changed the name of the ledger name from my previous year to current year which is not matching, only those ledgers should be mapped in the current year. So, you can avoid the duplication of mapping. So, this copy option is being provided in all your additional information as well. Suppose say accounting policies. I have already put the element-wise map details in my 2009 and 10. Now, I can copy from my 2009 and 10. I'll just remove something from here. Now, I'll copy from my 2009. So, all the values which are there in my 2009 for the accounting policies will get copied here, and whatever changes I need to do, I can change it in the current year. Now, there are certain element values where MCA says either there should be a value for that particular element name or it has to be a 0. Nil value, either 0 or a value for that particular element. Okay, when we go into my balance sheet, we have provided something called a mandatory information. Under mandatory information, we are capturing what are the mandatory information for the balance sheet, what are the mandatory information for my cash flow, what is the company information, mandatory information, and my profit and loss mandatory information. When I go into my balance sheet, okay, here, okay, there are few ledgers where I have a value in my current year, previous year, and I don't have values for my current year. So, this will not validate if at all 0 is being captured. Example, I have a ledger in my previous year and the same ledger in the current year is not having a value, it is having a 0 value. In that case, I need to send a 0 as my pre-filled value for the to validate the instant document, or I have a ledger in my current year and the same ledger is not there in my previous year. Even in that case, I need to send a 0 for my previous year. So Tally will take care of automatically, like if at all you have a ledger in the current year, Tally will automatically send a 0 in my previous year as well. And for the mandatory information, I can pre-fill with zeros wherever ledger values are not there. Okay. Same thing with my cash flow. It is showing when I am opening the company for, when I will open current year and previous year, I can have a comparison of my current year and previous year as well on side by side. My company information. Suppose if some value is missing from here, I can directly go to that particular. This is my P&L. So once here we have another option saying show me only the unmapped ledgers. So when I say show only unmapped ledgers, there are only two elements with the blue color which I need to map it for the current year. So I can map these ledgers so that it will turn into black. So once I am through with all my mapping, all my additional information, relevant additional information, cash flow, and everything is been done completely, I can generate my instant document. It says generate report. Okay. So I just have a data where all the mappings and additional information, everything is been given. I'll just open and show you how we generate that. (2010). So my previous year. So this generate report is available at all the reports. So I can generate my instant document. So I am giving the name as demo balance sheet, demo P&L. So it will instantly open the document and show this is the Xbrl file which need to be uploaded. But before uploading, we need to validate this file through an MCA tool which is being provided by the MCA. It can be downloaded from the MCA. This is a machine readable format which only the tool can understand. Okay, this is your balance sheet. Now we'll see how we validate that file. So that file which I generated is being stored here. Now we'll validate this file through the MCA tool. This is the MCA tool which can be downloaded. I say open the file. I say open the balance sheet. Okay. So the balance sheet is loaded completely. Now I can see the values as well. So these are the sources and application of funds. I can view the values. And these are the schedules. Share capital details, reserves and surplus, secure data, unsecured data, fixed assets. The director's remuneration, my auditor report, these are all the text information. Okay. Now I can say whatever I have loaded in this tool, whether it is valid or not, I can validate. If at all there is any error, it will throw the errors. Once it is validated, I can go in for my pre-scrutiny. Once you go in for pre-scrutiny, here the validation will, it will get connected to the MCA website, and the details of the name of the director is being matching, whether the name of the director is getting matched with the details given to the ROC. Like suppose say a particular customer name is suppose say Amit Kumar Agarwal. Suppose say his first name is Amit and second name is Kumar and third name is Agarwal. If you are giving Amit K Agarwal and if it is going for the pre-scrutiny, it will say that name is not matching with the DIN number which is been updated in the ROC. So those type of errors will be getting in my pre-scrutiny. Once my pre-scrutiny is done, I can directly upload this file to my MCA. And this report can be taken as a printout in my PDF as well. So whatever, how it is getting uploaded in my MCA. So this is normally when I'm seeing my Xbrl XML file, it is not a readable format. I mean, we cannot understand as a normal non-technical person. They will not able to understand the file, but I can take the same thing in my PDF format. So just export this to my PDF. I can say it's a balance sheet. The file is saved. So balance sheet.pdf. So I can view the PDF format. Same way, I can load my profit and loss. I'm going to create it as a demo PNL and I can validate, which is error free. So whatever I have provided in the general information as my SIN number or my PAN number, what type of industry, all those things can be viewed here. So now we have seen a complete flow, like having a data in Tally. How do we enable the MCA? How do we enable for the generation of what MCA, and how do we do the mapping of my ledgers which has been created in Tally to the elements of MCA, and for that elements details, how do we give the additional information relevant, what are the mandatory additional information to be given, and once my additional information given, how do I generate a file and how do I validate it through an validation tool. Is there any queries on this or any doubts need to be clarified? Is there, prior to seeing this Tally Xbrl tool, is there anybody who has already seen any tool, and is there any tool you have already seen? So how do you differentiate, sir, Mr. Krishna Kumar? And one advantage what I can tell what you'll have in Tally is the data is already available in Tally. Okay? So there won't be any mistakes in taking the values. Okay? If I'm not, wrong, taxman is, it is an Excel based, right? So all the values which you are having in Excel should be correct. If any of the values is, incorrect in your Excel sheet, that means you are giving a wrong report to the MCA. But in the case of Tally, that values will not go wrong because we are directly taking up from the data which is already been audited by your CAs. And all the other additional informations like your accounting policies, it could be your director's report or auditor's report. We are not going out of Tally and we are taking it. All the information we have provided within Tally so that there won't be any dependency of other softwares or all those things. No, manual entry will be only with respect to the additional information what you are trying to give. Otherwise, all the things will be taken up from your ledger balances. For example, I have an expense called rent. So the closing balance of my rent is suppose say 1 lakh as for the whole year. So when I am mapping that ledger to an element of rent in my MCA, so that ledger value as 1 lakh will go. There won't be any manual entries which has been given there. Your manual entry will be coming only with the additional information which you need to give apart from your financial information. Yeah, in additional information also we will be giving some bifurcation. Suppose say I will just give you an example. I'll give an example of, suppose say, my share capital. Okay. In my mapping, I have said my equity share capital is, suppose say, 6 crores 70 lakhs. Okay. 6 crores and 70 lakhs. Now, this value I will be getting it from my P&L, from my balance sheet, right? But all other informations I don't have. What is the number of nominal value of my share, or what are the number of shares I have per equity? So normally what will happen is the ledger value will be picked up from your balance sheet and your financial information. Non-financial information which is relating to my P&L or any bifurcation is being required for that particular value. Suppose in Tally I have one ledger for opening stock and another ledger for my closing stock when you go into my P&L. But MCA requires the detailed bifurcation of my opening stock and closing stock. So in that case, there will be a manual entry. Yes, sir, Mr. Osman, you are telling something. No validation, some problem. Yeah, if there are any errors which is being displayed in my validation tool, then we need to come and correct it in my data, and again I can regenerate again I can come and because suppose say my total revenue I have given it as 1 lakh, but in the bifurcations I have not given the total value as 1 lakh, and I have given it as a 1,10,000, or I have given it as a 90,000. So the bifurcation is wrong. So MCA tool will throw an error stating that your specified value is 1 lakh, okay, and your specified value is 90,000, and your expected value is 1 lakh. So in that case, you have to come and correct your reports, and then you need to regenerate the XML file. That is the procedure is being followed by all the tools. No, if you already entered the data in Tally, suppose now I showed you like for 2009 and 10, I had already mapped all my ledgers, but for 2010 and 11, I had not mapped any ledgers. Okay, so I can copy the mapping from my 2009 and 10 to 2010 and 11, or if I'm doing the mapping for my current year, I can copy this mapping to my 2009 and 10. So there won't be any duplication of mapping or giving an additional information as well. Suppose I gave you an example of accounting policies. There are 210 elements in the accounting policies where I cannot re-enter all the values. Suppose in most of the cases, people will have this information in the Word document, so that I can link a Word document to the complete, which will give the necessary information for my accounting policies. I can when I'm giving text block as a text block which is there in my Word, then I need not give the bifurcations of element wise. But when I'm giving the bifurcation of element wise, and I have already stored in my 2009 and 10, and if the same values I need to be copied to 2010 and 11, and there are minor fine tuning to be done in my current year, then I can copy my previous year value to my current year and then do my changes in the current year. Now, what configuration you are talking about? Xbrl configuration. No, here we are configuration. We are talking about is the mappings which I have done for one particular year, and I can copy the same thing for my another year. Here, if you are talking about F11 and F12, that is a default feature in Tally, where those configurations will not get any affected by any way. Only things which will get configured is your XML, so MCA reports, and the mappings which will get copied from my one year to another year, which will help you in not doing the work again and again on the same data. Here, any of the participants who have already filed the MCA report for the current year? Yeah, I'll try to send this recorded messages to everybody. You need not worry about it. And one more thing is, in our website, we already have a flash demo, which will give you a detailed one, like what is the flow which you need to go in. Yes, Mr. Krishna Kumar, you are trying to generate a Xbrl file from Tally, and you're finding it you're having any issues or any problems you're finding in generating and validating the tool in the tool. For the current year, the MCA has given a threshold limit saying that the companies who are having an 100 crore turnover or a paid-up capital of 5 crores, or all the listed companies need to file the reports for the year 2010 and 11. Going down the line, most of the companies will come into this Xbrl bracket. Still, that ceiling limit has not been worked out by the MCA, but most of the companies will come. So is there any more queries? Shall we wind up? Okay. So thank you for all the participants. If there are any queries, you can directly send a mail to me, My mail ID is kannan.s@tallysolutions.com. Yeah, flash demo is enough. If you just flash demo will show you whatever the flow which we have discussed in the webinar. So it will give you the complete information like how to go about and taking the MCA reports. Yeah, I'll make sure that each and everybody gets this recorded information. Thank you.